From Creamer Media in Johannesburg, this is the Real Economy Report. A division of South Africa's DCD industrial group has developed a new mine and ballistic protected vehicle called the Mountain Lion. Keith Campbell reports.
DCD Protected Mobility has many years of experience in developing and manufacturing mine-protected vehicles, today often referred to by the American term MRAPs, and is the original equipment manufacturer of the renowned Husky route clearance vehicle, of which it has exported some 1,600 examples. DCD Protected Mobility General Manager Alan Mears explains why they have developed the Mountain Lion and what it can do.
Well, we built the Mountain Lion as a result of a problem we identified that our customers and warfighters were having out in the field with respect to the mass of the MRAP vehicles that they'd had to employ in the conflict area, specifically in Iraq and Afghanistan, as well as the protection problems they had with the lighter vehicles like the Humvee, that once you had added extra protection onto them, that they had basically lost their payload. And then the MRAP vehicles on the other side being very restricted in their movements off the field, off the established routes. What we tried to do specifically was to balance what we call the iron triangle, being the optimal performance of the vehicle, but taking into account its mobility. It's essentially what we did in looking at this, at these three elements. We went and identified, obviously taking the laws of physics into account. We went and identified certain aspects that we had, and lessons learned that had come from our vehicle-mounted mine detector that we've supplied a significant number to various countries throughout the world. And we went and had a look at the protection levels and increased the protection of the vehicle to include a full-length monocoque hull, which protects the majority of the drive line components on our vehicle as well, which reduces the repair costs of a vehicle when it is involved in a serious IED type or landmine incident. We also used our four-wheel steer system, which was developed for the Husky vehicle, and integrated that onto this vehicle, giving the vehicle a turning circle of approximately 12 meters. We also had a look at the axle capacities and optimizing the entire drive line to improve the mobility with the absolute maximum payload we could add onto this vehicle. And the proof of concept was actually validated during our summer trial earlier this year, where our vehicle was the only vehicle that, besides getting stuck a few times like every other vehicle in the trial, it was the only one that did not require recovery by a third party or another party. We see our target market for this vehicle being for users, military users and people involved in post-conflict and peacekeeping type operations around the world, in a category below that of combat vehicles per se.
Other news making headlines this week, Minister Ibrahim Patel outlined South Africa's public-public partnership vision. New banknotes will be introduced before the end of this year, and infrastructure and policy delivery will form the basis of the World Bank's future engagement with South Africa. Economic Development Minister Ibrahim Patel reports that a new form of PPP or public-public partnership is in the process of being forged around South Africa's multi-billion rand infrastructure program.
Instead of the infrastructure program running simply as a build program, it also has as its core an industrialization goal. So there are some very interesting what we call new PPPs, public-public partnerships, that are beginning to develop inside the state, where the IDC sits down with an ESCOM or a Transnet to identify what are the opportunities for increased localization using their procurement strategies and the IDC's investment capability and track record.
Reserve Bank Governor Jill Marcus recently launched a communication campaign to showcase the new series of South African banknotes featuring former President Nelson Mandela. The 34 million rand awareness campaign is aimed at informing the public about the unique features of the new banknotes, which will be introduced before the end of the year.
A country's currency is a fundamental component of its national identity. It should be a reflection of its culture and heritage, South Africa's banknotes have reflected aspects of its culture and heritage since the inception of the South African Rand in 1961. Internationally, it is regarded as best practice for central banks to upgrade the security features of their banknotes every 6 to 8 years. This is to combat counterfeiting, which diminishes the value of real money, robs countries worldwide of billions of rand annually, and tarnishes the credibility of a currency, thereby impacting on the growth of that economy.
Newly appointed World Bank President Dr. Jim Yong Kim, who visited South Africa as part of a larger African tour, said the bank stood ready to support Africa's largest economy in its efforts towards improving social inclusion through higher levels and more inclusive growth.
I was very pleased and honored that I was able to meet with so many ministers. And in the discussions, I was deeply impressed with the level of analysis that the ministers had been doing of their own success. We had a very frank discussion, and the theme that came out of the discussion was extremely encouraging to me. And that theme was, we will experiment with policy, excuse me, not, the experiment's the wrong word. We have good policy. We've thought long and hard about the policies we've put in place. And now we're very focused on implementing to make sure that the policies work and that they work for everybody. And so we had a very long and intense discussion about how the World Bank and South Africa could work together on improving implementation and delivery.
That's Creamer Media's Real Economy Report. Join us again next week for more news and insights into South Africa's real economy.